He accused me of cheating, so I did, with the woman he left me for. Funny how life works out sometimes, isn't it? One minute you're planning a future with someone, and the next you're plotting the perfect way to destroy their entire world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days of what I thought was love. That's how long Jake and I were together before everything went to shit. We had the kind of relationship other people envied, or at least that's what I believed. Weekend trips to the coast, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else, and the kind of sex that made the neighbors complain. Pretty fucking perfect, right? Wrong. I should have seen the signs. The late nights at work. The sudden password changes on his phone. The way he'd turn away to text, angling the screen just out of my view. Classic cheater moves, every single one of them. But love makes you stupid, and I was apparently working with the IQ of a potato. It was a Tuesday evening when everything fell apart. Nothing special about Tuesdays. They're just the day of the week when life likes to kick you in the teeth, apparently. We need to talk, Jake said, wearing that serious expression people only use when they're about to ruin your life. My stomach dropped. You know that feeling when you miss a step going downstairs and for a split second you're sure you're about to die? It was like that, but stretched across several agonizing minutes. I think we should break up, he continued, not quite meeting my eyes. My brain struggled to process the words, like trying to understand a foreign language. What? Why? And then he dropped the bomb. I know you've been cheating on me. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. My chest tightened so much I couldn't breathe. Cheating? Me? Was this some kind of sick joke? What the actual fuck are you talking about? The words came out strangled, my throat constricting around each syllable. He shrugged, this casual little movement that made me want to set everything on fire. The late nights. The way you guard your phone. How distant you've been. Oh, that's rich. That is fucking rich. He was describing himself, every suspicious behavior he'd been exhibiting for months, and projecting it onto me. You're out of your mind, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the hurricane raging inside me. I've never cheated on you. Save it, he said, actually holding up his hand like a traffic cop. I met someone else anyway. Someone I can trust. The room tilted sideways. I gripped the kitchen counter to stay upright, my knuckles turning white from the pressure. So that was it. Not only was he accusing me of something I didn't do, but he was already replacing me. Had probably been replacing me for weeks or months while I was busy planning our future. Who is she? I asked, because apparently I wasn't in enough pain yet. Her name is Olivia. We work together. Olivia. The name burned itself into my brain. I'd heard him mention her before, the new marketing director, the brilliant one with the fresh ideas. Turns out her ideas weren't limited to marketing strategies. How long? My voice sounded strange, disconnected from my body. He hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. Does it matter? How long? A few months? A few months? While I was surprise ordering his favorite takeout and planning a trip for our anniversary, he was fucking someone else. The betrayal was like acid in my veins, burning through whatever trust and love I still had for him. Get out, I whispered. This is my apartment too. Get out! The scream tore from my throat, primal and raw. I didn't recognize the sound as my own. He looked almost scared for a second, then grabbed his keys and left. The door closed with a quiet click that somehow hurt more than if he'd slammed it, and then I was alone. I don't remember much of that night. Time became meaningless, stretching and compressing like I was caught in some emotional black hole. I know I destroyed some things. A framed photo of us that shattered satisfyingly against the wall, the stupid ceramic penguin he'd won for me at a carnival, the matching coffee mugs with our initials. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., scrolling through his Instagram, looking for clues I'd missed. And there she was, Olivia, in group photos from work events, standing just a little too close to Jake. Her hand on his arm in one picture, her body angled toward him in another. So fucking obvious in hindsight. She was beautiful, of course. The kind of effortlessly gorgeous that makes other women hate you on sight. Long dark hair, bright blue eyes, the body of someone who probably uses phrases like clean eating and morning run. I stalked her profile until my eyes burned, comparing every inch of her to myself, finding all the ways I must have fallen short. The next few days passed in a blur of pain and box wine. I called in sick to work, ignored messages from concerned friends, and wallowed in my misery like it was a luxury spa treatment. Rock bottom has a strange comfort to it. When you're already there, there's nowhere else to fall. It was day 4 of my pity party when my best friend Mia showed up, using her emergency key to get in after I'd ignored her calls for the 3rd straight day. Jesus Christ, she muttered, taking in the disaster zone that was formerly my living room. It smells like sadness and Doritos in here. I groaned from beneath my blanket cocoon on the couch. Go away. Not happening. She crossed the room and yanked open the curtains. Sunlight spilled in, offensive and bright. I'm mourning, I protested, shielding my eyes. You're festering, she corrected, picking up an empty wine bottle from the coffee table, and from the looks of it, pickling your liver. She forced me into the shower, which I had to admit made me feel marginally more human. Then she ordered food that wasn't processed cheese or delivery pizza and sat across from me at the kitchen table, watching me eat like I was a toddler who might try to feed the dog instead. So, she said once I'd finished most of my meal, he accused you of cheating when he was the actual cheater. I nodded, the familiar burn of anger reigniting in my chest. Classic Darvo, she said. At my confused look, she elaborated, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Textbook manipulator shit. I pushed my food around the plate. I gave him 3 years of my life, Mia. I know, honey. And he just replaced me, like I was nothing. My voice cracked on the last word. Her eyes softened with sympathy, which was almost worse than the anger. He's garbage. Premium grade A artisanal garbage. That startled a laugh out of me, small and rusty but real. Have you talked to him since? She asked. No. He texted about coming to get his stuff, but I haven't answered. She considered this for a moment. You need closure. I need a time machine so I can go back and never meet him. Barring that impossibility, you need to face him. On your terms. Looking hot as fuck and completely unbothered. The idea sent a spike of anxiety through me. I can't, you can. And you will. Mia had that determined look that meant resistance was futile. But first, we need to get you functioning again. Over the next week, Mia orchestrated what she called Operation Phoenix Rising, which involved a strict regimen of exercise, healthy food, sunlight, and socializing. I went through the motions like a robot, not feeling much of anything beyond the dull ache of betrayal that had become my constant companion, until the night I saw them together. It was my first time back at our favorite local bar. My favorite bar now, I had to keep reminding myself. Mia had insisted it was time to reclaim my territory, dragging me there despite my protests. I was nursing a vodka soda, trying to ignore the pitying glances from acquaintances who'd heard about the breakup when they walked in. Jake and Olivia, holding hands, laughing. He was wearing the shirt I'd bought him for Christmas. Time stopped. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. My vision tunneled until all I could see was them, looking disgustingly happy while my world was still in pieces. Jake spotted me first. He had the audacity to look uncomfortable, like I was the one making things awkward. He whispered something to Olivia, who looked over at me with curiosity in her eyes. Not guilt, not shame, just curiosity like I was some exotic animal at the zoo. The woman who wasn't good enough in her natural habitat. Something snapped inside me, something vital and irreparable. I stood up, my movements mechanical, and walked directly toward them. Mia grabbed for my arm, but I shook her off. Hey, Jake, I said, my voice eerily calm. Fancy seeing you here. He shifted awkwardly. Hey, this is Olivia. Olivia smiled, actually smiled, and extended her hand. Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. I bet you have. I ignored her hand and kept my eyes on Jake. I hope he mentioned how I supposedly cheated on him. That's why we broke up, right, Jake? Because I was unfaithful? Jake's face drained of color. Olivia's perfect eyebrows drew together in confusion. That's not... I didn't exactly... he stammered. No, please tell her. I pressed, feeling a surge of dark satisfaction at his discomfort. Tell her how you accused me of cheating when you were the one sneaking around for months. Olivia turned to Jake, questioning. You said you broke up because you'd grown apart. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. Is that what he told you? Interesting. Did he also mention that we were still very much together when you two started fucking? The bar had gone quiet. We had an audience now. That's enough, Jake hissed, gripping my elbow. I yanked away from him. Don't you dare touch me. Olivia was looking back and forth between us, uncertainty clouding her perfect features. Jake, what is she talking about? Nothing. She's just upset and trying to cause drama. He turned to me, eyes pleading. Can we not do this here? And that's when I saw it, the fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing Olivia, but fear of being exposed. of everyone knowing what he'd done, of his carefully constructed narrative crumbling. Power surged through me, unfamiliar and intoxicating. "Sure, Jake, we don't have to do this here." I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. "Enjoy your evening, both of you." I turned and walked away, feeling their eyes on my back. Mia was waiting by the door, eyes wide. "Holy shit," she whispered as we stepped outside. "You okay?" I took a deep breath of the cool night air, feeling something new unfolding inside me. Not healing, it was too soon for that, but something else. Something with edges. "No," I answered honestly. "But I think I will be." That night, lying in bed, I replayed the scene in the bar over and over. The look on Jake's face, the confusion on Olivia's, the power I'd felt, just for a moment when I'd controlled the narrative. It was addictive, that feeling. I wanted more of it. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram, searching for Olivia's profile again. This time, I wasn't looking to torture myself with comparisons. I was looking for something else. Information, weaknesses, openings. He accused me of cheating, so I did, with the woman he left me for. The thought floated into my mind, unbidden and perfect in its symmetry. I smiled into the darkness, a real smile this time. Not happy exactly, but purposeful. For the first time since everything fell apart, I slept through the night. I've always been told I have a talent for making friends. Something about being approachable, genuinely curious about people, the kind of face strangers tell their life stories to on airplanes. Never thought I'd weaponize that particular skill set, but desperate times and all that. The plan came to me in the shower 3 days after the bar incident. Isn't that where all the best ideas happen? Something about the hot water washing away the bullshit, leaving only clarity behind. I was going to seduce Olivia. The thought made me laugh out loud, a harsh bark that echoed off the bathroom tiles. It was so perfectly twisted, so poetically just. He accused me of cheating, then left me for someone else. The symmetry of taking that someone else away from him? Chef's kiss. But could I actually do it? I'd never been with a woman before. The logistics alone were daunting, never mind the moral bankruptcy of the whole scheme. Plus, there was one glaring problem. I wasn't even sure if Olivia liked women. I shut off the water and stood dripping, my mind racing. This wasn't just about sex. This was about justice. About taking back what had been stolen from me, my confidence, my trust, my sense of worth. If I could make Olivia choose me over Jake, even just once, the victory would be sweeter than any revenge fantasy I'd concocted while demolishing pints of ice cream. I wrapped myself in a towel and padded to my bedroom, opening my laptop with purpose. First things first, reconnaissance. Social media is a beautiful thing when you're planning someone's destruction. Within an hour, I knew more about Olivia Chen than her own mother probably did. 29 years old, graduated from UCLA with a marketing degree, vegetarian but not militant about it. Her words, yoga enthusiast, dog lover with no actual dog, apartment living, and most importantly, openly bisexual according to several Pride Month posts. The universe was practically handing this to me on a rainbow platter. I dug deeper, looking for common ground, points of connection. We both loved indie films, true crime podcasts, and apparently shared an obscure favorite author. She posted frequently about a coffee shop just 3 blocks from my apartment. She was part of a book club that met at the local library on Wednesday evenings. Pieces began shifting into place, a mental chess game where I could already see checkmate 5 moves ahead. "You've got that look," Mia said when she came over later that day. "The one that means you're either about to do something brilliant or something that'll require bail money." I grinned, pouring us both wine. Why not both? I laid out my plan while Mia's expression cycled through shock, concern, amusement, and, finally, reluctant approval. "That's diabolical," she concluded, sipping her wine. "Also possibly illegal in some states." "Which part would be illegal exactly?" "I don't know, emotional entrapment? Premeditated homewrecking?" I rolled my eyes. "It's not entrapment if she's a willing participant. And their home is already wrecked. I'm just going to dance in the rubble." Mia studied me over the rim of her glass. "Are you sure this isn't just going to hurt you more in the end?" The question landed like a punch to the sternum. Was I sure? Of course not. Nothing was certain except the hollow ache in my chest that appeared when I woke up each morning, the fleeting seconds before I remembered everything that had happened. "I need this," I said finally. "I need to take back some control." Mia nodded slowly. "Then let Operation Homewrecker commence." What's first? What was first was a complete personal overhaul. If I was going to catch Olivia's attention, I needed to become someone new, Someone who wasn't defined by being Jake's ex, someone confident and intriguing in her own right. I started with the physical, partly because it was the easiest to control. New haircut, shorter, edgier, new wardrobe, sleeker, more put together, even new perfume, something with jasmine, subtle but memorable. I joined a gym, not because I needed to change my body, but because the physical exertion helped quiet the storm in my head. Kickboxing became my therapy, each punch and kick a proxy for the confrontation I was meticulously planning. The mental transformation was harder. I practiced conversations in the mirror, perfecting a casual air of mystery. I read books on body language and persuasion, absorbing techniques like a sponge. I curated my social media, crafting an image of someone living their best life. Hiking trips, art galleries, rooftop bars with friends. Jake would see it all, of course. That was part of the plan. And through it all, I watched Olivia. Not in a creepy, restraining order kind of way, more like careful observation from a safe distance. I accidentally showed up at her favorite coffee shop, timing my visits to match her patterns. I joined her book club under a semi-false pretense, claiming a newfound interest in literary fiction. The first time we spoke directly, my heart hammered so hard I was convinced she could hear it. "You're new," she said, sliding into the chair next to me at the book club. No recognition in her eyes. She hadn't connected me to the woman from the bar scene weeks earlier, which made sense. It had been dark, emotional, and I looked different now. First meeting. I confirmed, offering my hand and the name I'd decided to use, my actual first name, but my mother's maiden name as my last. Not quite a lie, but enough separation from the person Jake might have described to her. "I loved the book." "Really?" She looked surprised. "Most people found it depressing." "I thought it was honest." "There's a difference." Something sparked in her eyes, interest, curiosity. That's exactly how I felt about it. And just like that, the hook was set. Over the next few meetings, we gravitated toward each other, our conversations extending beyond the books into personal territories. I was careful to reveal enough truth to seem authentic while avoiding anything that might expose my connection to Jake. I told her about my job, real, my passion for photography, also real, and fabricated a recent breakup with a gender-neutral Alex, who had commitment issues. Men are the worst. She sympathized after I shared this carefully crafted tale. "Not all of them," I said, purposefully hesitant. "But lately I've been wondering if I've been limiting myself by only dating men." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh." I shrugged, feigning embarrassment. "Just thoughts. Exploring options. Being newly single is interesting." She smiled, a slow curl of lips that made something flutter in my stomach, a reaction I hadn't anticipated. Being single is definitely the time to explore. We started meeting outside of book club, casual coffee dates that stretched into lunch, walks in the park that ended with drinks at sunset, each interaction carefully orchestrated to seem natural while steadily building intimacy. I studied her reactions, adjusted my approach, became whatever version of myself seemed to intrigue her most. And somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. I started genuinely enjoying her company. Olivia was smart. Wicked smart, with a dry humor that caught me off guard and insights that made me see familiar things from new angles. She was ambitious but not cutthroat, confident without being arrogant. She listened when I spoke. Really listened, with the kind of focused attention that made you feel like the only person in the room. In another life, we might have been friends. The thought ambushed me one evening as we sat at a wine bar, her laughter ringing out at something I'd said. I felt a strange twist of guilt, quickly followed by righteous anger. She had helped destroy my relationship, whether she knew it or not. She was sleeping with the man who had accused me of the very thing he was doing. She didn't deserve my friendship or my guilt, but the doubt had planted itself, a persistent weed I couldn't quite uproot. "You seem far away," Olivia noted, her head tilted in that curious way she had. I forced a smile. "Just thinking about how unexpected this is, us becoming friends. The best connections usually are unexpected." She held my gaze a beat too long. "Don't you think?" There was a weight to her question that sent electricity skittering down my spine. Was she flirting? It wasn't the first time I'd wondered. There had been touches, casual brushes of her hand against mine, a lingering hug goodbye, the way she sometimes tucked my hair behind my ear when the wind blew it across my face. Small gestures that could be friendly or something more. It was time to find out. "I have tickets to a gallery opening this weekend," I said, the words coming out before I could second-guess myself. "Would you want to come with me?" As my date? Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Surprise, consideration, decision all flickering across her face in rapid succession. "I'd love to," she said finally. "It's a date." My stomach did a complicated gymnastics routine. This was what I wanted, what I'd been working toward for weeks. So why did the victory feel so hollow? I pushed the feeling aside. There would be time for moral crises later, after Jake had been thoroughly destroyed. Speaking of Jake, he had been surprisingly absent from Olivia's conversations. She mentioned work frequently but rarely specific colleagues. When I carefully prodded about her romantic life, she was vague, talking about seeing someone, but offering few details. It was strange. Was she embarrassed by him? Keeping their relationship casual? Or was there trouble in paradise already? The last possibility gave me a vindictive thrill. The night of our date, I spent hours getting ready, scrutinizing every detail of my appearance. The dress I chose was calculated, elegant enough for an art gallery but with subtle sex appeal in the way it skimmed my curves. My makeup was understated but flawless, hair styled in tousled waves that looked effortless but had taken 40 minutes to achieve. I looked good. Not for Olivia, I reminded myself. For the plan, for the revenge. She met me outside the gallery, and for a moment I forgot to breathe. She was stunning in a black jumpsuit that should have been simple but somehow wasn't, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She looked nervous, a vulnerability I hadn't seen in her before. "You look amazing," she said, her eyes tracking slowly up and down my body. "So do you?" My voice came out huskier than intended. The gallery was crowded, the perfect excuse to stay close, our bodies brushing as we moved between exhibits. I placed my hand on the small of her back to guide her through tight spaces, feeling her lean into the touch. We shared whispered critiques of pretentious art descriptions, stifling laughter behind our wine glasses. It felt real, too real. After the gallery, we walked to a nearby rooftop bar, the kind of place with overpriced cocktails and city views that justified the cost. The night air was cool, the sky clear enough to see a few stubborn stars fighting through the city's light pollution. "I'm having a really good time," Olivia said, leaning against the railing beside me, our shoulders touching. "Me too. And the worst part was, I meant it. Can I ask you something personal?" My heart skipped. "Sure. Have you ever actually been with a woman before?" The question caught me off guard, though it shouldn't have. I considered lying, sticking to the vague implications I'd been making, but something stopped me. "No," I admitted. "But I've thought about it. A lot. At least that part wasn't a lie." She nodded, taking a sip of her drink. "I could tell. You have this curious energy. It's cute." "Cute?" I raised an eyebrow, feigning offense. "Not exactly what a woman wants to hear on a date. Would you prefer sexy? Intriguing? Irresistible?" Her voice dropped on the last word, sending a shiver through me that had nothing to do with the night air. "Those work better," I managed to say. She laughed, then grew serious. "I should probably tell you something. I'm kind of seeing someone." There it was. The elephant in the room, finally acknowledged. "Kind of?" I kept my tone neutral, just the right amount of disappointed but understanding. She sighed, swirling the ice in her glass. "It's complicated. We've only been together a few months. He just got out of a serious relationship." The familiar anger sparked in my chest. "Rebound? Maybe. I don't know." She looked genuinely troubled. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm making a mistake. He can be intense, possessive." I bit back a bitter laugh. "Jake? Possessive?" The irony was almost too much. "What about tonight?" I asked, gesturing between us. "Does he know you're on a date with me?" "No." She met my eyes directly. "And I'm not sure what that says about me. Or about us." The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility. This was it, the opportunity I'd been engineering for weeks. All I had to do was lean in, close the distance, and set the final act in motion. "I don't think there are simple answers," I said instead, surprising myself. "But I do think you should be with someone who makes you feel valued. Secure, not anxious or uncertain." Where were these words coming from? This wasn't the script I'd prepared. Olivia studied me, something like admiration in her expression. "That's surprisingly wise. I've had my share of relationship disasters," I said, the understatement of the century. "Tell me about them sometime." She reached out, her fingers brushing mine on the railing, the touch sending an unexpected jolt through me. "Maybe I will." When we said goodnight outside her apartment building, there was a moment, her eyes dropping to my lips, the slight sway forward, where I knew she would kiss me if I gave any encouragement. Instead, I pressed my lips to her cheek, lingering just long enough to make it meaningful. "I had a wonderful time?" I said softly. "Me too." She looked slightly puzzled, maybe disappointed. "We should do it again. We definitely should." I walked away feeling her eyes on my back, the script completely rewritten. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to end. I was supposed to make my move, begin the seduction in earnest. Instead, I'd pulled back, suddenly uncertain of everything. As I walked home, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Mission accomplished? I stared at the screen, my thoughts a tangled mess. The plan was working. Olivia was interested, vulnerable, questioning her relationship with Jake. I could still do this, still execute the perfect revenge, but something had shifted tonight. Something fundamental. I texted back. "It's complicated." 3 dots appeared as Mia typed her response. "Complicated how? Did she reject you?" "No, the opposite." "Then what's the problem?" I stopped walking, looking up at the night sky as I tried to make sense of the confusion swirling inside me. The problem was that Olivia wasn't just a pawn anymore. She was a person I genuinely liked. And I was lying to her, manipulating her, using her as a vehicle for revenge against Jake. The righteousness that had fueled me for weeks suddenly felt brittle, unsustainable. My phone buzzed again. "Hello? You still there?" I took a deep breath and typed, "I think I'm the problem." The realization didn't change my desire for revenge. Jake still deserved to suffer for what he'd done. But maybe, just maybe, there was a way to destroy him without destroying myself in the process. I started walking again, a new plan forming in my mind, one that might satisfy justice without compromising whatever shred of integrity I had left. One thing was certain, the game had changed, and so had I. I woke up the next morning with a new sense of clarity. Revenge was still on the menu, but the recipe needed adjusting. Using Olivia as a pawn in my vendetta against Jake suddenly felt beneath me. Not because Jake deserved better, fuck that guy, but because I deserved better. Olivia too, probably. My phone had 3 texts waiting. One from Mia asking for updates. One from Olivia thanking me for a lovely evening. And one, surprisingly, from Jake. "Need to get the rest of my stuff from the apartment. Tomorrow afternoon work?" My thumb hovered over the screen. I hadn't seen him since that night at the bar almost 2 months ago. The thought of him in my space again made my skin crawl, but it also presented an opportunity. The first test of my new approach. Fine, 2 p.m. Don't be late. I spent the day tidying the apartment, not because I cared what Jake thought, but because the physical activity helped channel my nervous energy. By the time 2 p.m. rolled around, I'd transformed the place. Gone were all traces of our life together, photos removed, spaces rearranged, new art on the walls. It looked like the home of someone who had moved on, someone who was thriving. The doorbell rang precisely at 2. Jake was nothing if not punctual when it suited him. I took a deep breath, checked my reflection, casual but put together, looking better than I had in months, and opened the door. "Hey," he said, hovering awkwardly in the hallway. He looked not great, actually. Tired around the eyes, hair a bit unkempt. The sight gave me a tiny thrill of satisfaction. "Hey," I replied, stepping aside to let him in. "Your stuff is boxed up in the living room." He followed me inside, his eyes widening slightly as he took in the changes. "You've been redecorating." "Reinventing?" I corrected, enjoying the flash of discomfort that crossed his face. "The boxes are there. Take what you want, leave what you don't." I settled on the couch with a book while he sorted through the boxes, pretending to read while actually hyper-aware of his every movement. The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken words. "How have you been?" he finally asked, his voice careful, measured. I glanced up from my book with calculated indifference. "Great, actually. You?" "Fine. Busy with work?" He paused, then added, "Olivia said she met someone new at her book club. Someone she really connects with." My heart stuttered. So she'd told him about me. Well, the version of me she knew. Interesting. Good for her, I said neutrally, returning to my book. "She doesn't know many people in the city yet," he continued, watching me closely. "It's nice that she's making friends." Friends. Is that what he thought we were? I bit back a smile. "The city can be lonely," I agreed, turning a page I hadn't actually read. He sorted through another box, tension radiating from his shoulders. "She mentioned going to an art gallery with her new friend last night." Now I did look up, meeting his eyes directly. Sounds like you two talk a lot about her social life. A muscle twitched in his jaw. We talk about everything. That's nice. I smiled, sweet as arsenic. Communication is so important in a relationship. He stuffed a handful of t-shirts into his bag with more force than necessary. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. I set my book aside, still smiling. I'm genuinely happy you found someone you can be honest with. The barb landed. I could see it in the way his shoulders stiffened. Look, about what happened between us. Ancient history? I interrupted, standing up. Water under the bridge. We both made mistakes, right? He looked momentarily thrown by my magnanimity. Right. Yeah. Besides, I continued, casually straightening a cushion, if we hadn't broken up, I wouldn't have discovered so many new things about myself. New interests. New possibilities. I let the word hang in the air, ambiguous and loaded. His eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of possibilities? I just smiled and shrugged. Life is full of surprises when you're open to them. He zipped up his bag with a sharp tug. Well, I think that's everything I need. Perfect. I walked him to the door, maintaining the pleasant mask I'd carefully constructed. Take care, Jake. He hesitated at the threshold. You too. And ... I am sorry, for how things ended. The apology, so inadequate for the harm he'd caused, nearly made me laugh. Instead, I kept my expression serene. Everything happens for a reason. After he left, I leaned against the closed door, heart racing with a strange mix of emotions. Phase 1 of the new plan? Complete. I'd planted the first seeds of doubt, presented myself as mysterious and thriving, and, most importantly, given no indication that I knew Olivia. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Free for coffee tomorrow? Perfect timing. I smiled as I typed back, absolutely. Same place at 11? Over the next 3 weeks, my relationship with Olivia evolved into something I couldn't quite define. We saw each other almost daily. Coffee dates that turned into lunch, weekend trips to farmers markets, wine nights at my apartment where we talked until the small hours of the morning. Each interaction deepened our connection in ways I hadn't anticipated. I learned about her childhood in California, her complicated relationship with her high-achieving parents, her dreams of eventually opening her own marketing agency. I shared real parts of myself too, my passion for photography, my strained relationship with my father, my secret ambition to write a novel someday. The lies I'd constructed began to feel like an unnecessary barrier, so I started dismantling them, piece by piece. I have a confession, I told her one evening as we sat on my balcony, sharing a bottle of wine under the strings of fairy lights I'd recently hung. She raised an eyebrow, lips quirking. Should I be worried? Maybe. I took a fortifying sip of wine. My ex isn't named Alex. Her expression shifted to confusion. Okay. His name is Jake. I watched carefully for any reaction, any flash of recognition. Nothing. And this matters because, she prompted, because I haven't been completely honest about my last relationship. It didn't just end, it imploded. He accused me of cheating when he was the one who'd been unfaithful. I swallowed hard. It messed me up for a while. Understanding dawned in her eyes. That's why you were so hesitant on our first date. I nodded, guilt and relief warring in my chest. I'm still figuring out how to trust again. She reached across the small table, covering my hand with hers. Thank you for telling me. For what it's worth, he sounds like an absolute asshole. I nearly choked on my wine. If only she knew. Your turn, I said, desperate to shift the conversation. Tell me something you haven't told me yet. She withdrew her hand slowly, considering. My relationship, the one I mentioned before. It's not going well. My pulse quickened. No? I don't know. Distant lately. Suspicious of everything I do. She sighed, staring into her wine glass. Last week he actually followed me to the coffee shop where I was meeting you, then made up some excuse about being in the neighborhood. Jake was following her? Following us? The thought sent a chill down my spine, followed immediately by a rush of vindictive pleasure. He was jealous, threatened by her mysterious new friend. That's concerning, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Has he always been possessive? Not at first. But lately? She trailed off, then looked up at me with startling intensity. Can I ask you something totally inappropriate? Those are my favorite kinds of questions. When was the last time you were really genuinely happy with someone? Not just content, but actually happy? The question caught me off guard. I thought of Jake, of the good times before everything fell apart. Had I been happy? Or just comfortable in the routine we'd built? It's been a while, I admitted. She nodded slowly. Me too. The air between us changed, charged with unspoken possibility. She set down her wine glass and moved to the chair beside mine, close enough that our knees touched. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said quietly. "It's driving me crazy." My heart hammered against my ribs. This moment, this was what I'd been working toward, wasn't it? The perfect opportunity to execute my revenge. Seduce Olivia, take photos, send them to Jake, destroy what he valued just as he'd destroyed me. But the script in my head no longer matched the reality of my feelings. "What about Jake?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She froze, eyes widening. "How do you know his name?" "I don't think I ever mentioned." Shit. Shit. My mind raced for a plausible explanation. "You must have, that night at the gallery when you were talking about your complicated relationship?" She frowned slightly, trying to remember. "Maybe. It's not important anyway." "The point is, it is important," I interrupted, a new clarity taking hold. "I need to tell you something. Something you might hate me for." Before I could continue, my phone rang, Mia's ringtone. I ignored it, but the moment had fractured. Olivia leaned back slightly, her expression guarded now. "Tell me what?" she asked. The words jammed in my throat. How could I possibly explain? "Hey, funny story. I've been secretly plotting to seduce you as revenge against your boyfriend, who is actually my ex who accused me of cheating. Isn't that hilarious?" "It's complicated," I finally said. "Try me." My phone rang again. Mia again. I silenced it with an apologetic glance at Olivia. A sharp knock at my door cut me off. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone, and the building had security, so random visitors were unlikely. "Hold that thought," I told Olivia, rising to check the peephole. Jake stood in the hallway, his posture rigid with anger. My blood turned to ice. What the hell was he doing here? "Who is it?" Olivia called from the balcony. I turned to her, panic rising in my throat. "It's..." The knocking came again, more insistent. "I know you're in there." Jake's voice, loud enough to hear through the door. "Open up. We need to talk." Olivia appeared in the doorway to the balcony, her expression confused. "Is that..." The decision crystallized in an instant. It was time for the truth, all of it on my terms. I opened the door. Jake stood there, fury etched into every line of his face. "Where is she?" he demanded, trying to look past me into the apartment. "Who?" I asked with exaggerated innocence. "Olivia. Her phone location shows she's here." He tracked her phone? Controlling much? "Jake?" Olivia's voice came from behind me, confused and slightly alarmed. "What are you doing here?" He pushed past me into the apartment, his eyes darting between Olivia and me. "What am I doing here?" "What are you doing here?" "With her?" I closed the door and leaned against it, strange calm washing over me. This confrontation was inevitable, had been from the moment I first saw Olivia's face on his Instagram months ago. "You two know each other?" Olivia asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. Jake laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Oh, she didn't tell you? This is my ex. The one I told you about." Understanding dawned on Olivia's face, followed quickly by hurt as she turned to me. "You knew? This whole time you knew who I was?" I met her gaze steadily. "Yes. Why? Was this some kind of game to you?" "Not a game," I said. "Revenge." The word hung in the air between us, stark and ugly in its honesty. Jake scoffed. "Revenge? For what?" "I left because you cheated." "I never cheated on you," I snapped, the familiar anger flaring hot and bright. "You made that up to justify your own infidelity." "You were sleeping with Olivia for months while we were still together." Olivia's head whipped toward Jake, her expression hardening. "You told me you'd broken up weeks before we ever got involved." Jake faltered, caught between lies. "It was basically over anyway." "Basically over?" I echoed. "We were planning a fucking future together. I was looking at engagement rings, you asshole." The color drained from Olivia's face. "Is that true?" Jake ran a hand through his hair, cornered. "It wasn't working. I was going to end things." "But you didn't," I said. "Instead, you accused me of cheating so you could play the victim. So you could walk away feeling justified instead of admitting you were a coward and a liar." Olivia took a step back, her eyes moving between us. "So let me get this straight. You," she pointed at Jake, "lied about the timeline of our relationship to both of us. And you," her gaze shifted to me, "befriended me as some elaborate revenge scheme?" "Yes," I admitted. At first?" "At first," Jake repeated, laughing incredulously. "What, you expect us to believe your intentions changed? That this is somehow genuine now?" "I don't expect you to believe anything," I told him. Your opinion stopped mattering to me the moment you decided I was disposable. I turned to Olivia, whose face remained unreadable. I owe you an apology. What started as revenge evolved. The person you've gotten to know these past weeks, that's the real me. I should have told you the truth sooner. You shouldn't have lied at all, she said quietly. I know. I swallowed hard. And I'm sorry. Jake stepped between us, his face flushed with anger. This is insane. Olivia, she manipulated you, used you to get back at me. And you're standing there listening to her apologize like it means something? You don't get to talk about manipulation, Olivia replied, her voice suddenly steely. Not when you've been tracking my location without my knowledge. Not when you lied about your relationship status when we met. That's different. Is it? She crossed her arms. Because from where I'm standing, you both lied to me. The difference is only one of you is actually admitting it. Jake's mouth opened and closed, fish-like in his indignation. You can't seriously be defending her. I'm not defending anyone, Olivia snapped. I'm trying to make sense of the fact that my relationship is apparently built on lies, and one of the few genuine connections I've made since moving to this city was apparently orchestrated as some twisted revenge plot. Her voice broke on the last word, and my heart twisted with genuine remorse. This wasn't how I'd wanted it to end. In my revenge fantasies, Jake had been devastated. Olivia had been collateral damage at worst. I hadn't accounted for actually caring about her feelings. Both of you need to leave, I said suddenly, the weight of what I'd done settling heavy on my shoulders. What? Jake looked incredulous. You heard me. Get out, both of you. I moved to the door, opening it wide. You deserve each other. A liar and a revenge seeker. What a perfect match. Olivia stared at me for a long moment, hurt and confusion warring in her eyes. Then, without another word, she grabbed her purse and walked out. Jake lingered, his expression twisting into something ugly. You're pathetic, you know that? Months of elaborate planning, all to what? Make me jealous? Congratulations, it didn't work. I don't care who Olivia spends time with. I smiled, tired but genuine. This might come as a shock to your ego, Jake, but not everything is about you. Now get out of my apartment. After a moment of stunned silence, he stalked out, slamming the door behind him. I slid down to the floor, my back against the door, and let out a long, shaky breath. The apartment felt cavernous in its silence. My phone buzzed with multiple texts. Mia, frantic with warnings that Jake had seen us together at a cafe and was on the warpath. Too little, too late. I'd gotten my confrontation. My big revenge moment. The look on Jake's face when he realized I'd been secretly befriending Olivia had been everything I'd hoped for. Shock, betrayal, jealousy, anger. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I just felt hollow. My carefully orchestrated revenge had worked exactly as planned, and yet it had cost me something I hadn't expected to value, the genuine connection I'd formed with Olivia. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to make Jake pay for his betrayal, I'd become the very thing I hated, a manipulator, a liar. I pulled myself off the floor and went to the balcony where our wine glasses still sat, half empty. The fairy lights twinkled mockingly, setting the scene for a romantic evening that had shattered into chaos. My phone rang again, Mia, for the third time. I picked up. Holy shit, she said before I could even speak. Jake knows. He came into the bar looking for me, asking if I knew what you were up to with Olivia. I tried to warn you. It's over, I interrupted, my voice oddly calm. He showed up here. Olivia knows everything. Everything? That I befriended her for revenge? Yeah. That I was starting to genuinely like her? Also yes. A long pause. Fuck. Are you okay? I considered the question, looking out at the city lights. No, but I think I will be. Want me to come over? I've got emergency ice cream and tequila in my freezer. I smiled despite everything. Maybe tomorrow. Tonight I need to sit with this mess I've made. After hanging up, I poured myself another glass of wine and settled back on the balcony. The revenge I'd spent months planning had finally played out, but not in the way I'd imagined. There was no satisfaction, no sense of justice served. Just the bitter taste of regret and the knowledge that in trying to hurt Jake, I'd hurt someone innocent in the process. And yet, a strange sense of liberation was taking root alongside the regret. The obsession that had consumed me for months, the need to make Jake pay, to balance the scales, had burned itself out. In its place was something quieter, something like acceptance. My phone buzzed with a text. Expecting Mia again, I glanced down. It was from Olivia. We need to talk. Properly. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop. I stared at the screen, heart racing. After everything that had happened, after the lies and the revelations, she still wanted to talk? It seemed impossible, yet there it was in black and white. I typed back a simple response. I'll be there. Setting my phone aside, I looked up at the night sky. The revenge plan was officially dead, its ashes scattered in the wake of tonight's confrontation. Whatever happened tomorrow with Olivia, whether it was closure or something else entirely, would be on new terms, honest terms. He accused me of cheating, so I did, with the woman he left me for. The plan that had seemed so perfect in its poetic justice now felt like a cautionary tale. Revenge might be sweet in fantasy, but in reality it leaves a bitter aftertaste. Tomorrow would be about making amends, not settling scores. And for the first time in months, that felt like enough. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I tossed and turned, replaying the confrontation in my mind, mentally rewriting my lines like you do after an argument. Should I have been more apologetic? Less defensive? More honest from the beginning? The questions circled like vultures, picking at the carcass of my failed revenge plot. By morning, I'd settled into a strange calm. The kind that comes after a storm, when the chaos has passed but the damage remains, waiting to be assessed in the harsh light of day. I spent the hours before meeting Olivia trying to distract myself. I cleaned my already spotless apartment, reorganized my bookshelf alphabetically, then by color, then back to alphabetically. Scrolled mindlessly through social media until I realized I was searching for glimpses of Jake or Olivia in mutual friends' posts. Old habits. At 1:30, I stood in front of my closet, suddenly paralyzed by the stupidest of questions. What do you wear to apologize to the woman you befriended as revenge against your ex who left you for her? Not exactly a scenario covered in fashion magazines. I settled on simple jeans and a sweater, honest clothes if there is such a thing. Nothing calculated or strategic. Just me, stripped of artifice, heading to face the consequences of my actions. The coffee shop was busy when I arrived, the afternoon crowd filling most of the tables. I spotted Olivia immediately, tucked in a corner booth, 2 cups already in front of her. She'd ordered for me. The gesture, so casually thoughtful after everything that had happened, made my throat tight. You came, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. Did you think I wouldn't? I considered the possibility that you'd ghosted town and changed your name by now. A hint of a smile softened the words. I wrapped my hands around the coffee cup, absorbing its warmth. I thought about it, but I'm trying this new thing called facing consequences like an adult. How's that working out for you? Uncomfortable. Wouldn't recommend. The joke fell flat between us, the air still heavy with unspoken truths. I took a deep breath and dove in. I'm sorry, Olivia. Truly. What I did, befriending you under false pretenses, was manipulative and wrong. The words felt inadequate, pebbles thrown into an ocean of hurt. She studied me for a long moment. You know what the worst part is? I genuinely liked you. I thought we had a real connection. We did. We do. I leaned forward, needing her to understand. That's what made it so complicated. What started as revenge became real. The person you got to know, that wasn't fake. How am I supposed to believe that? How do I separate what was genuine from what was calculated? It was a fair question. One I'd been asking myself. I don't have an easy answer. All I can tell you is that somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as Jake's girlfriend and started seeing you as you, Olivia, someone I cared about. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes never leaving mine. After you two kicked me out last night, I didn't kick you out. After I left, she corrected with a pointed look, I walked for hours, trying to make sense of everything. Do you know what kept bothering me the most? Not the betrayal or the lies, but the fact that I wasn't even angry at you. Not really. I was just sad. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry. You said that already. I'll probably say it about 50 more times before this conversation is over. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Jake and I broke up last night. Officially. Permanently. The news shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Because of me? Because of him. Because of the lies. Because I realized I'd been settling. She set down her cup with deliberate care. I deserve better than someone who tracks my location and lies about his past. You absolutely do. I deserve better than someone who befriends me as revenge, too. The word stung, but I nodded. You do. She leaned back, something shifting in her expression. What I can't figure out is why you didn't go through with it. Go through with what? The ultimate revenge. You had the perfect opportunity. Jake was already suspicious, already jealous of our friendship. You could have taken photos of us together, sent them to him, really twisted the knife. She tilted her head. Why didn't you? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't fully articulated the answer even to myself. Because it stopped being about him, I said finally. Somewhere along the way, what you and I had, friendship, connection, whatever you want to call it, became more important than hurting him. Huh. She processed this, a curious light in her eyes. That's unexpectedly decent of you. Don't sound so surprised. I have my moments. We fell into silence, the ambient noise of the coffee shop filling the space between us. Outside, rain had started to fall, painting watery streaks down the windows. So what happens now? I asked. Now? I move on. Focus on my career. Maybe adopt that dog I've been wanting. She shrugged. Start fresh. And us? Her eyes met mine, candid and clear. I don't know. Part of me thinks I should walk away and never look back. The smart part. And the other part? The other part remembers that some of the most real conversations I've had since moving here were with you. The other part wonders if something genuine can grow from something that started so twisted. Hope flickered, fragile and unexpected. What's that part saying right now? That trust has to be earned back. That it would take time. That there are no guarantees. She traced the rim of her cup with one finger. But that maybe we could start over. As friends. Real ones this time. I'd like that. I said, the words coming out as barely more than a whisper. She nodded, a decision made. Then let's try. Slowly. Honestly, the weight that had been pressing on my chest for months, through the betrayal, the plotting, the revenge, the guilt, began to lift. Not completely, but enough to breathe a little easier. We stayed at that coffee shop for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Small talk, surface-level stuff, but without the ulterior motives or calculated responses that had characterized our early interactions. It wasn't perfect or magical, but it was real. A beginning rather than an end. When we finally parted ways outside the cafe, the rain had stopped. Olivia hesitated before stepping away. For what it's worth, she said, Jake was an idiot to let you go. I laughed, surprised by the comment. You're just saying that because you know firsthand what a lying asshole he is. That too. She smiled, a genuine one this time. See you around? Count on it. I watched her walk away, feeling something close to peace settle over me. Not happiness exactly. There were still too many jagged edges for that, but something adjacent to it. Possibility, maybe? Later that evening, as I scrolled mindlessly through social media, a notification lit up my phone. Jake had untagged himself from all our photos. He'd also changed his relationship status from in a relationship to single. 6 months ago, this petty digital cleansing would have devastated me. 3 months ago, it would have fueled my rage. Now, I felt nothing but mild amusement. I closed the app and opened my text messages instead, sending a quick note to Mia. Drinks tomorrow? I have updates. Her response came immediately. Details or I perish from curiosity. Is revenge sweet? I thought about it for a moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Was revenge sweet? The answer, I realized, was both simpler and more complex than I'd anticipated. Not as sweet as moving on, I wrote back. And for the first time since Jake had accused me of cheating, since he'd shattered my world and rebuilt it with him as the villain, I truly meant it. He accused me of cheating, so I did, with the woman he left me for. The perfect revenge plan on paper. But life isn't lived on paper, and people aren't plot devices to be manipulated. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone else, it's about healing yourself. About finding your way back to the person you want to be, not the person pain tried to make you. Jake is probably out there somewhere, nursing his wounded ego, spinning a narrative where he's still the victim. Let him. His story isn't mine to write anymore. I have my own story now. And this time, I'm telling it for me.